DSLR versus mirrorless cameras, full frame versus crop frame cameras. So you are about to buy your first camera and you had noticed that some cameras are labeled mirrorless and you are thinking mirrorless means that it doesn't have mirror. Mirrorless, no mirror. So no mirror, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is there advantage or a disadvantage? And you also notice that some cameras are labeled crop frame and some cameras are labeled full frame, and you don't know what is the best one for your use and which one will fit your needs. And you know in your heart that it is important to choose the right one from the beginning, because you don't want to end up with a bad camera that takes low resolution images. So if you are looking to buy a new camera and need some advice, this episode is for you, because in this episode I'm gonna explain for you what's the difference between mirrorless cameras and DSLR cameras, and what's the difference between crop frame and full frame cameras. And if you are new to my channel, hello, I am Afaf and I am a photographer, and I graduated as a doctor before leaving my job and staying as a full-time mother with my 3 great kids. And eventually I started my home studio as a newborn photographer. I started from zero. I knew nothing about photography, nothing about cameras. And after a while of practicing, I had become a professional newborn photographer. And in 2024, I moved to my new commercial space studio. And in this episode, I'm gonna help you to understand more what's the difference between DSLR and mirrorless and crop frame and full frame. So before we get started, make sure to subscribe to my channel because you don't want to miss any of the future episodes of this series. And let's create a big family of photographers from all around the world. So in order for me to explain for you what's the difference between mirrorless cameras and DSLR cameras, we need to understand the internal camera structure. And the internal camera structure is fun because it's not like human anatomy. When I used to study medicine, you won't hurt your eyes with formalin or anything else. So for the camera, first of all, of course, you have the lens, and you have the camera body, and inside this camera body is the structure that you will study now. So here is the viewfinder where you will put your eye. Let's draw an eye here. So here you will put your eye if you are taking the photo from the viewfinder. The viewfinder is this piece here where we put our eye to take the photo like this, or of course you can take the photo from the screen. So here is the viewfinder and here is the screen, and let's draw some of the internal structures. So here is the lens. The lens is contains a lot of lenses for physics of the light. And how is the camera taking the picture? The light will pass through these lenses and then hits the first structure inside the camera, which is the lens. The second thing here is a mirror, and behind the mirror here is a lot of structures, of course, but here is a shutter. The shutter, let me draw it like this. Okay, and behind the shutter there is the sensor. So the light will come in and hits the mirror, and with some structures it will go like this, and you will see the picture through your eye in the viewfinder. So here in the lens is the aperture, and here we have, this one is the mirror, and here this one will be the shutter, and this one will be the sensor. And this one is the most expensive part of the camera. So the main difference between the mirrorless camera and the DSLR camera, that the mirrorless camera does not have this part. So when this part is not available, this is called mirrorless camera. And if this part is available, it is a DSLR camera. This is the main difference between them. So how is the light going if it is a mirrorless camera? It's all electronic inside. So the light will go directly and hits the sensor for recording, and also it will reflect in the viewfinder through the sensor. So it's all electronized, no physics in the mirrorless camera. Does not depend on the physics. The DSLR depends on the physics, but the mirrorless depends everything on electronics. So here, DSLR versus mirrorless. So the mirrorless cameras are newer version cameras. They don't have the mirror inside as the DSLR used to have. And for everything, there is a good side and a bad side. So let's start with the good sides of the mirrorless cameras. They are lighter in weight since they're like the mirror, and they are smaller in size. So these two criteria can be handy for photographers who hold their cameras by hand all the time, who don't use the tripod for their job. For example, I'm a newborn photographer and I will hold my camera all the time taking the photos of the baby. And sometimes I will hold the camera for a while, waiting for the baby to smile during his sleep. So this can take a good minute, and holding a heavy camera at that time is so difficult. But for photographers who are using tripod, like food photographers, it's okay for them. They use the tripod. The weight doesn't matter for them. The most thing that matters for them, I think, is the resolution, the color depth, and so on. The downside of the mirrorless camera is the battery life. Since everything is electronized, it consumes a lot of battery, and the life of the battery is less than what DSLR batteries used to live for a long time. So just keep in mind that mirrorless cameras, you will need to have another battery with you. So if this battery died, I will just easily take the battery and have a full charged spare battery and insert it and continue with my session. And if you are outdoor photographer, you definitely need to have an extra battery. You don't want to go out for adventure or for hiking or for an event or a wedding and you don't have spare battery with you. So make sure to have spare batteries all the time with you. So what about DSLR cameras? Are they good enough? Actually, yes, DSLR cameras are good, and I still have amazing results from my previous DSLR Nikon D850, and I am still in love with her. But the main reason that made me switch to mirrorless is the focus. The eye tracking in the new mirrorless cameras are way better, so much better that it's eye tracking, it's detecting the eye, it's following the focus. Not like when I used with the DSLR camera to choose the point of focus manually with my hand. I mean, not focusing manually, but choosing the points manually. Yes, it used to have detection, continuous focus that detects the face, but it was not accurate. For me, the new mirrorless cameras are way better in focus in terms of detection the focus, sharpness of the focus, and fastness of detecting the focal points. That's so important for me as a newborn photographer, especially that newborns have tiny features. It's important to have this criteria in the focus. And because of the focus speed in the new mirrorless cameras, since I switched to mirrorless, I didn't miss any smiling shot of any newborn that I had photographed. That's amazing, because when the newborn smile, I can quickly grab my camera and focus with the shutter button, and I know the speed of the focus is gonna catch the baby's smile. And if you don't know what's the smile of a newborn, newborns have a smile reflex, and that happens when they are asleep. In their dreams, they will dream of something, I don't know what's this, and they will smile. And this smile can last for a few seconds. I think it lasts for 5 seconds only. So if I was lucky and I was holding my camera, taking a photo, and they smiled while I am holding the camera in my hand, I can definitely take it, even if I was with DSLR. But the problem is, if the baby smiled and I was fixing something in the wrap of the baby or the headband of the baby, if it was DSLR, I don't have the enough time to grab my camera and take the photo for the baby while he is smiling because of the focus speed. When I focus, the smile will be gone. But with mirrorless, I didn't have this issue anymore. So for me, I love the mirrorless because of this reason. And I'm so happy that I can please my clients with these beautiful shots and make everlasting images for them. The second reason that made me switch to mirrorless, other than the focus and the speed and the sharpness of the focus, is the weight. For me, as a newborn photographer, the weight of the camera for the DSLR used to hurt my arms and hurt my back, especially when I extend my camera like this to take the photo from above the baby. It's difficult. So switching to mirrorless, it's lighter in weight and doesn't need extra muscles from me. And as a feminine job, I don't have extra muscles to have to deal with big camera and heavy camera. So this one is good for me. And this brings us to another question. Is DSLR disappearing slowly from the markets now? And I think the answer is yes. Think of it like the film cameras. We don't see film cameras anymore in the shops. And if you are from the new generation who doesn't know what's the film camera, it's a camera that we will put a film inside it. This film will have only, I think it used to have 35 images. So only 35 images you can take with this film. And when you are done with this film, you will send it to the I think it was called the light lab or the dark room. Yeah, dark room. And they will bring the pictures for you from this film. So we don't see film cameras anymore. Film cameras died literally after the innovation of digital cameras. The point that I want to bring here is film cameras are dead. And if we learn something from the history, we will anticipate that DSLR cameras will be discontinued in some point. And some lenses are already discontinued from manufacturers. If you don't know yet, that Nikon has mirrorless cameras and DSLR cameras, and the lenses that are used to be compatible with the DSLR body are DSLR lenses. So the manufacturer has started discontinuing making some models of the lenses of the DSLR cameras because they want all the clients to shift to the new mirrorless cameras, which is of our advantage, of course, for our advantage to move to the mirrorless cameras because it's the future. And this is bringing us to the final part. Full frame camera versus crop frame camera. So basically a full frame has a full size sensor. So let's take a close look to the sensor inside the camera. So inside of this camera, you will see the sensor. And the sensor in this camera is full frame, so it's full in size. And a full frame camera has a sensor size that is full compared to the film camera. The film camera, the sensor of the one image used to be 35 millimeter, and compared with it, it is a full size. It means the same size as the film camera. But a crop frame camera has roughly 3/4 the frame size of the full frame camera. So full frame cameras are more expensive due to the larger sensor size, which is the most expensive part of the camera. And because full frame sensors are the choice of professional photographers who will take this camera for their career and their job and make it their main source of income, factories tend to load these cameras with the highest features like the high resolution megapixels and the color depth and the sharpest focus and the fastest shutter speed, which makes them even more expensive. On the other hand, crop frame cameras have fairly good resolution, normal resolution, not crazy high, not low, good resolution, and normal to low color depth. I will say it, yeah, sometimes they have low color depth and low colors. So their prices are much cheaper than full frame cameras. And because of that, they are perfect for professional personal use, not professional studio use. So professional personal use, like documenting your travels, documenting your kids' development, or if you are a content creator and you want to make content online. So for examples, I have 2 crop frame cameras that I use all the time. So not because I'm professional that I will use my highest end professional full frame camera all the time. I use the crop frames as well. I have the Sony ZV-E10 and I have the Sony 6700, and I use them both for vlogging. They are both very good for vlogging because they are lighter in weight and easier to use.